So why would you use an adze to carve a chair seat? Well, there's several reasons. One, it's the fastest way to carve a chair seat. If you're only carving one or two, use whatever you've got. Even a gouge and mallet work really well. It just takes a long time. But if you're carving a lot of chair seats, if you're doing a lot of deep hollows, deeply saddled chair seats, or if you're carving in a lot of hardwood, an adze is going to be your go-to tool. One popular way to carve Windsor chair seats is in an upright benchtop jig of some type, or clamped truly vertically in like a face vise on your bench, which also works really well. I built this jig several years ago, and it has two different angles, a very steep angle, not quite vertical, and then it's got a shallower angle. Because depending upon the height of your bench, depending on your height, depending on the setup of your adze, how open or closed the hang of your adze is, you'll want a different angle. So the way to carve like this, we'll fasten our piece. I've got a clamp holding it in place on the jig, and then I'll just stand in front of it. I like to use a two-hand grip with my adze just for extra control, and then away we go. Tucking my elbows into my sides gives me a lot of stability and control. And with some practice, I'm incredibly accurate. One technique is to imagine a line at the deepest part of your seat, and then from the top, carve down to it. We're carving across the grain, just like so. And then to turn the seat and come back the other way. You don't have to do it this way. In fact, I like carving all the way through. You have to change the position of your adze a little bit for this follow through. Just like so. You don't have to use a long-handled adze for carving with this upright jig. This is our small bowl adze with the flat center, so this adze is the same head as our chairmaker's adze, just with a shorter handle. I grip it a little bit differently. I'll put the bird's head part of the handle in the palm of my hand. Again, using a two-hand grip. I just stand a little closer. So how do you decide on which adze to use for carving your chair seats? Well, there's a lot to consider. A couple of things I would think about is long or short handle. Do you want to stand more closely? Or do you want to step back just a little bit and have a little more options on a two-handed grip? It really boils down to personal preference here, but both work quite well. The other question is, how quickly do I want to carve, or how smooth a surface do I want to leave? You can carve a chair seat with any of our curved adzes. In fact, here's our little diminutive spoon carving adze with a very tight, aggressive sweep. Look at this. It carves quite quickly. But notice it leaves a much more rigid surface that needs a lot more cleanup. Whereas either the chairmaker's adze or the small flat-centered adze are going to leave a much cleaner and smoother surface. Here are 4 of our popular adze models, all of which are suitable for carving chair seats. And I'll talk a little bit about each one and how they're different. Starting on your right, we have our large bowl adze. This is our largest and heaviest adze at about 2 1/4 pounds overall weight. This adze has a slightly shallow but continuous sweep curve to the blade. Next we have our chair maker's adze. This is a little bit lighter at 1.75 pounds, so it's about half a pound lighter. And its head is the same forging, same basic size and shape as our small bowl adze line, as well as our Kuxa adzes. This one has the flat center sweep, where the middle is a little bit flatter and it curves up aggressively at both sides. Exact same head as on our small bowl adze with the flat center. The only difference is the length of the handle. And then we come to probably our most popular and common adze, small bowl adze with the elliptical sweep. Now this is very subtle. The center is not flat, but it is slightly shallower than the edges. So this kind of gives you a compromise of fast cutting, because the tighter the sweep, the faster it will cut, but the more rigid it will leave the surface. But this cuts relatively quickly and leaves a reasonably smooth surface. Let's take a look at the sweeps on these different adze models. As you can see, this is the imprint of the cutting edge. At the top is our large bowl adze, small bowl adze with the elliptical sweep, and then our small and our chair maker's adze with the flat center. You can see how they compare with one another. When we initially designed the chair maker's adze, this longer handle was intended to allow the user to carve flat on a low bench. There's a few Windsor chair makers that like carving this way, and the handle's set up so that you can work like so. As you can see, our chair maker's adze is specifically set up to be optimal for carving your Windsor chair seats. With this longish handle and the flat center sweep, this tool is ideal. But don't let ideal stand in your way of carving a chair seat. Use any curved adze or gouge or scorp or in-shave that you might have. Don't let that perfect tool stand in the way of you making great work.